Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to do a Zenith, single choke Zenith 36 IV carburetor. I've got three of them here. The customer sent me all three and he said I must build him one out of the three. I managed to get a nice kit for it. These originally came on the 2 1/4 Land Rovers and those kind of things back in the day. And so let's see what we have. So here's those three carbies. I'll have a look, see what the shaft condition of the shafts are and so on. This one looks the cleanest. It's not necessarily the best, because see what they did here. Interesting adapter or repair the guy did there. Anyway, so but I think it's going to be probably this one that I'll repair, and if I need spares I'll take it from that to that. Here's the third carby. You know, I don't know, this is a little bent and that looks a bit better, and so I'll see what I do here. And then there was a fourth carby sent with in the parcel, which is this one. It's a Hong Kong. I'm not even gonna look at it. I don't work on these kind of things. I only work on original. So I'm gonna strip these and see out of the three of them which is the one that I'm gonna be using, and then the rest will be for donor parts. So this is the kit that I managed to find for it. It seems to have all the gaskets and bits and pieces in. It's even got a needle and seat. It's even got a new shaft and butterfly in, and a whole lot of other springs and washers and gaskets and bits and pieces, which is really cool. So I'll check out the carbs and strip, and then start cleaning and assembling. So out of the three carbies, I've decided to go with this one. Reason being, it's the most complete out of all of them. If you look at this one, someone has had a hammer to that, probably because the needle and seat was stuck. And if you look at this one, it looks like somebody's dropped it and some of the little shafts and stuff is bent. If you turn them around, I'll do that quickly. If you turn them around, you can see I looked at the shafts, and this one is the least worn. This one is like hardly got any wear and tear on the shaft and the casing. This one looks like somebody's replaced the shaft and a butterfly before. Nothing wrong with that. But they've also got lock screws in there, which I don't fancy too much. This has got the original adjuster screw in. And on this one, this carb is probably worth nothing, because somebody's tried to put a bush in there because the shaft was worn, and they got their tooling wrong, and they've completely missed the casing to do that repair. So this carb is probably worth nothing. This is also one that I think somebody might have dropped, because it's got some bent linkages and stuff. So this will just be spares. This one can be rebuilt in the future, but we'll have to rebush this. So in this repair or the service, I'm gonna use this one. And if I need anything, I'll take it from those. So with any service like this, you've got to have a tub where you put all your bits and pieces in. And once you've assembled the carby, you've got to sit with an empty tub, otherwise you've gotten something somewhere. So very important to have a tub for all your screws and bits and pieces. So on these carbies, before you can take the top off, after you've removed the screws, you've got to remove this link here, and just be careful for this pin not to fly away. And then on the other side there's also another link to remove, but I'll show you guys now. So on the other side, we just pull that split pin out. You can either cut it off or make it straight and pull it. We're going to replace it anyway. And then that link is out. And now the carby can come apart. Like that. So when these carbies come apart, the choke or the venturi comes apart in 3 pieces actually. So the one piece stays with the bottom float bowl part of the carb, and it's got an O-ring there that needs to be replaced to enable it to seal properly. And then the second part is this whole body here becomes undone before you can even get to the gasket, and that obviously seals with the gasket. So this takes apart in 3 parts. I'll show you all of that. Just going to take the float and bits out to get it out of the way. So to take this bit off to get to the accelerator pump and all of that, you use a 12 spanner to undo your needle and seat like that, and then obviously flat screwdriver to undo those 2 to get all of that undone. This carb was redone, and then it stood for many years, because I mean all of that's rusted. But all this, the interior of this carby, the internals, to me looks just about brand new. Look at that needle and seat. It doesn't look like it's worked. I'm gonna put this in the ultrasonic cleaner anyway, and then I'll try and do something with that rust. Maybe do an acid dip on it. Now this should just come off, and it doesn't want to. Yeah. You've got to be so careful with this, not to force it. So this was stuck, didn't want to come off. And all I did is I just pried it a little bit there, very softly, with a screwdriver. If you overdo it, you're gonna damage your carby and your spares. I'm just pulling this off the gasket, and there we go. Now the carb is in 3 pieces. So this here is the little arm that pushes the accelerator piston. I'm not going to remove that. I'm obviously going to remove this. And this is nearly ready to put in a ultrasonic cleaner. On this, I just have to remove that. Hopefully what I find below there will also be in fairly good condition. There is a new diaphragm for this. It came apart pretty easy. Looks okay. No rust on the spring. And that diaphragm in the gasket looks like it's never worked. Now it actually looks like I've made the correct decision with what carby I'm gonna be servicing. So it's time to clean this. So what I've decided to do, I'm going to put this outside and put degreaser on it, and spray it with my high pressure washer to get all of this gunk off. before I put it in my ultrasonic cleaner. Otherwise I'm going to have all this rubbish in my ultrasonic cleaner. So once all of that's done, we'll be back. So after a bit of degreaser and the pressure washer, the carby now looks like that. I think it came out okay. So from here I'm going to unscrew more bits and pieces, like that jet and so on. I didn't want to have it off while I was cleaning it, in case I was blowing rubbish into the boards and all. So I'll unscrew all of that and then put it in an ultrasonic cleaner and see what it comes out like afterwards. My ultrasonic cleaner runs for 40 minutes, so I might have to do 2 sessions with it. But yes, we'll catch up after that. I just want to explain how the accelerator pump works. It's very similar to a 36 DCD. So for anything to pump, you need to have at least 1 or 2 non-return valves. So in this one, you've got a non-return valve sitting in there, and that'll allow the fuel to enter into the. If the plunger goes up, it will allow to draw fuel in. So when you push down, that'll seal, and then you will squirt fuel through here. There's your little spray nozzle. You'll squirt fuel through there. But for that to enable to draw up fuel, you need a secondary non-return valve, which is this one here. Let me just show you. It's actually quite delicate. So there's the other little non-return valve inside there. I'm not sure if there's one in the kit. I'll have a look. But obviously this one needs to be cleaned out properly. I will put it in there for later in the bin. Not the bin, the parts bin. And then this is your little plunger. And inside there's the other non-return valve in the bottom. It's got a little retaining clip there. We'll remove it and clean it and so on. And there's the little piston. So there's actually not much that can go wrong with this assembly. It's actually brilliant. Anyway, I'm going to throw this in the ultrasonic. So after 80 minutes in the ultrasonic cleaner, the carby looks like that. I think it came out quite alright in comparison to what it was before. There's still discoloration here and there. I'm not going to worry about that. If you want to get that off, you need to either sandblast it or put it in acid or whatever. You can see there's discoloration there from the fuel. It was in the ultrasonic for 80 minutes. That's not going to cause any problems. I'll clean that up a little bit more with carb cleaner. This section also came out acceptable. Quite clean. After it comes out the ultrasonic cleaner, I clean it with a jet wash, and then after the jet wash, I spray it and dry it with my air hose with the air nozzle, and I blow through every little channel and make sure it's clean and make sure there's no blockage in it. This is the top part of the carby. You can see there is some corrosion. I'll see if the carb cleaner can do something to that. This is rusted a bit. I'll try and pull that out, replace it. If I can't, I'm just going to put a bit of sandpaper on it and leave it. But all in all, I think these bits came out quite nice. A bit of discoloration there, but that doesn't matter. So okay, let's start assembly. So in the base of the carb, you've got this O-ring that goes on the inside. I'll pop that around now and show you. You've got your idle speed screw, your idle mixer screw. Interestingly, in the Zenith manual, they refer to it as a volume control screw. Anyway, I'm going to call it what I'm used to calling it, and that's an idle mixer screw. There's the butterfly shaft and everything. You get a new one in the kit. I'm not going to replace that. There's nothing wrong with it. And this plug that goes, I'll show you where that goes. So let's start putting this together. So because all these bits were in the ultrasonic cleaner, they're probably going to start rusting soon. So I just want to put a bit of lubricant on it just to stop the rust. And on that side, and then obviously also on the idle speed screw, just put a bit of lubricant on there. And I'm going to put the idle speed screw in first, if I can get the thread to catch. Here we go. So that's in place. Next thing we're going to do is put the idle speed screw in. Again, just a bit of lubricant. Put it in there. And usually with these screws, you turn it in very softly until you feel it seats there, and then it's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5 screws out, and that'll be an okay starting point. Important thing, you need to have a little ruler. I've got this little steel ruler, and just check that everything is perfectly flat. I've done that already with this carby, and all the surfaces are perfect. If it's not, you're gonna have to skim that, but fortunately on this one it's perfect. Second last that goes in is this plug. I'm also just gonna put a bit of lubrication in there and then put the plug in place. I'll explain what that does a bit later when I've got more of the carb together, that you can give it a nice tight nip like that. And then on this side we're just gonna put the O-ring in. I like to put that in. So on this side of the carb, it's got this device here. It's called economy device, and it's vacuum operated. I'll show that now in a minute. I just want to show you on the circuit where it is and what it does. If you can have a look over there, it's that bit over there, and this is the top part of the carby, and it's got a channel that runs down the bottom, and it introduces extra fuel in over there, and it obviously gets the fuel through these channels here, and it's operated by a little hole that you can't see here, but I'll show you that. It's operated by this little hole here, which sucks up the diaphragm through that little hole, and that little hole goes in there, and that little hole, you've got to follow me now, goes into the carby, and it comes out there, and then that little hole, follow me, goes in there. You can see that goes in there, it goes right down the bottom, and it comes out on the side over there. You see there. So it operates under low and high vacuum. It will pull the plunger up and down. You can download this manual if you want. It explains all how it works, but it's just the little enrichment system. That's all it is. So it's got this little gasket that goes there, and then the diaphragm that goes there, and another little gasket. This all comes in the kit, which is quite cool. Another little gasket that goes there. Oops. And then the spring that pushes that down, and then the cover on top that pushes all of that. And I'm not going to bore you by putting this together now. I'll put it together and then we'll continue with something else. So I've got everything in place, and then you simply just tighten the screws and give them a nice equal nip, all three of them, and then this will be fine. It'll be working. Just get all three of them to that you can feel it's now holding the cover like that, all three of them, and then once you're happy that it's in place, you can just give each one a little nip, not too tight, like that. And there we go. That part of it is done. We're going to flip this around and then do the more complicated bits. So next we're going to do the accelerator pump bit. So if I can show you here, this is in that Zenith manual. There's the pump discharge valve, which I explained earlier on. The pump jet is in there, and that's the plunger. And what they don't show you here is the little non-return in the bottom, right over there. There's a little non-return. So you unfortunately don't get one of these new. So I've cleaned this one, cleaned it on a bit of a wire brush, and sprayed it with carb cleaner. Made sure it was working fine. Then we're just going to put it in place there. There's nothing much that we can do with that, and give it a little nip. So the pump jet is that little bit there. See there? That's the little pump jet there. I didn't unscrew it because when I looked inside the hole there, don't know if you can see there, the thread and that is already a bit damaged, and I didn't want to muck it up. And then, but it is clean. I sprayed carb cleaner through it. So all we need to do is just to put this plug in there. You can see you don't get a new plug either. You can see the plug, the screw bit on the plug has been damaged. It's been taken out so many times. So we're just gonna carefully screw it in until it locks, and that's it. That's in place. And then last, what we need to do is just put the plunger in. Unfortunately, we can test this. I'll show you how we test this now in a bit of fuel before we assemble this. I'll just get a small bowl of fuel and we'll test it quickly. So I've got a bit of fuel there, and with any luck, if I put this inside there, it's going to draw up fuel and spray. So let's see. See, there we go. There we go. So that bit is working. So we can test that without assembling the carb. So we know our accelerator pump is working. We don't want to assemble the whole thing and then discover something is wrong, a little non-return isn't working or whatever. It's actually brilliant that you are able to test it like this. Quite an impressive design. So on the other side of this, you get the slow running jet that goes in there. Something that I need to say for this side, all of that needs to be cleaned off properly, and all of that there. And what you can do is you can put it on a flat piece of glass with a bit of sandpaper, and then clean that off. Otherwise you're going to have leaks. And then what you need to do as well is check that it is perfectly flat, like this one is. And if it's not perfectly flat, you're going to have problems with this carby. So all of that you just need to clean off perfectly. Make sure there's nothing. Blow your channels out with carb cleaner and you'll be good. So what I was going to say, on the other side of this, you get your slow running jet. That's your idle jet. You need to make sure the channel is open for it. It gets its fuel from the same place as the main jet, which is over there. If you spray in there, it's got to come out there. You know that it's open, nothing is blocked. There's the old one, and fortunately you do get a new one in the kit. So we're simply just going to screw that in and we'll be good. and give it a nice little nip. Now we've done this side of it. I've taken the plunger out because I want to put it flat on the other side, because there's a few things we need to do on this side as well. So on this side of the carby, we've got your main jet over there, which is this one. You do get a new one, and you've got a compensating jet over there, and you do get a new one of those as well in the kit. And then obviously you're going to need an air correction jet as well, which is the one over there. I haven't taken it out, there's nothing wrong with it. And remember, this all bolts together like that. I'll try and explain that a little bit better a bit later. But the important thing is that these channels are open. This is your emulsion tube block. I'll try and show you on a drawing now. Let me just get a better screwdriver to turn that in here. Don't want to damage it. There we go. So that's those two jets there, 27 and 17. And you can see it's got channels inside. And that's your air correction over there, which will get air through that channel there on the carby. And that's how that works. So it draws fuel from there. There's your air correction, which then sprays it into the channel, into your choke with that little pipe over there. So there's a different side of it. There's one of your main jets. Air correction sits on top, you can't see it, and then the fuel would go into the choke with that tube there, which I'll show you now. There's that tube. So all of these are connected together to get fuel into the carby. So now we need to put all of this together. So again, with your little ruler, make sure this is all flat and clean. There's no bits there that's gonna hinder you from getting all of this on perfectly flat. And you need to check that it is perfectly flat, and this one is. Make sure all of that's good. Then you put this gasket on, and next you have to now put your plunger back in. Make sure this is clean and flat and everything. Put your plunger back in. That goes on like that. That's the little plunger cam. That's going to go on like that with your two screws. And on this side, it's been held together by the needle and seat. So right now we don't tighten everything. We just put it in place because we need to move the gasket in place. Just want to get everything where it is supposed to be. Like that. And then next we're going to put the needle and seat in. So there's our needle and seat. It comes with a nice aluminium washer. Need to put it in place there. And see why I don't nip everything up yet, because you need to get everything in. And then move your gasket, make sure your gasket's nice in place. And then you can start tightening. Don't over tighten it, because you can bend that. And then you tighten a little bit over there. And a little bit over there. Give it a nice nip. Give it a nice nip, and give this a nice nip like that. You do not want to over tighten this. And there we go. That's that bit done. There's your needle and seat in place. So next we're going to put the float back, which is straightforward and simple. Just going to make sure there's nothing inside it, otherwise it would be leaking. And you simply put it there, put your brass pin through, if I can get the hose lined up one day. There we go. And then your float level, that's actually really easy, really easy to know what it's supposed to be, because it is stamped over there. Let me show you quickly. What your float level is supposed to be is stamped over there. And this one is 33 millimeters. So that's all set up in the factory to be 33 millimeters. Depends on the application and the engine and what have you. So I don't know what this carb was intended for, but I'm going to set it as per what is stamped on there. I can just get this hole lined up again. There we go. So in that 33 millimeters is supposed to be from the gasket to the top of the float over there, in that resting position. That's about right. See there? So I'm quite happy with this float. And now we can assemble the rest of the cobby. So when I put this on, when I put this bit on, I like to have a bit of oil there, so that the oil can help to get that O-ring. I like to have a bit of oil there, so oil can help to get that O-ring in its place. Otherwise you could struggle. And when you put this on, make sure you don't have these pushing out too much that way or too much that way, otherwise you can possibly bend it. And you just drop that on. And that's done. Now we can turn this around. There's a couple of links we would connect, but we'll do that now. Now you can turn this around and we can put the screws in just to hold it in place. So once you've got your screws in, you'll see the carby is always pushed open a little bit by that O-ring, which is fine. You just make sure when you put your top on that you don't hook that brass pin of the float, and then you just slowly tighten these screws until they all just touch the spring washer, like that. Once they're all on the spring washer, you can then give them a little bit of a turn, each one, because you don't want to pull this top. And then you'll feel they're starting to slowly nip up. And once they nipped up, that's it. You don't have to over tighten them. They're not going to come loose. They've got spring washers on them. And there you go. That bit is done. So when you do your accelerator pump, you can feel there, that first bit there, that's the spring, the return spring of this, and you can feel there, I don't know if you can hear that, it's now actually touching the little plunger pump, and that's your accelerator bit over there. So you've got to keep that in mind when you put this on. Otherwise you're gonna throttle your first bit of throttle, and you're not actually gonna do anything. So it's better that you put that on the second hole, like that. Put your pin through from the back on the second hole, the hole that's furthest to the outside. Struggling a bit there. There we go. Get this back. There we go. Now you're gonna have nice travel in the accelerator pump. Put your washer on and then put your clip in like that, and that's that done. You return all the way. We'll test afterwards, but there we go, that bit is done. You still need to put this little spring in, this little clip, I mean, and that also is going to require a new. And that's basically how you service these carbs. There's not much to it. A little bit to understand. I would advise that you maybe download that leaflet from it's a service bulletin on the Zenith website. It's for free. Download it, print it out for yourself. It explains all the steps, how it works and everything. Download that for yourself, and then if you can get a service kit, it's actually quite simple to service. Very delicate carb. Don't force anything. Don't knock anything with a hammer. It's a very delicate carb, and if you service it properly and service it regularly, you'll get years and years of service out of it. Anyway, I hope this helps. Be safe out there.